He did call me the oracle. I'm about to make this historical. These questions you ask me rhetorical. Like who do I be? I am the queen. I'm the supreme. You didn't know? What do you mean? Look, they call me the oracle. I'm about to make this historical. These questions you ask me rhetorical. Like who do I be?
Have to end for you to feel safe?
For them to be incarcerated, or I don't see anyone hurt or killed, but better them than me. They came in our neighborhood. We want them out, and I feel that whatever has to be done has to be done. Whatever means are necessary, and that's what I want.
Grand Rise. Happy Saturday, everyone. Happy Saturday. Sorry I'm bringing this particular video to you late. Well, we were trying to stabilize the audio from the interview, so I had to chop some stuff out of there a little bit. And some parts of it, there's like a whole completely different conversation going on in the background. My apologies. We've tried to drown that out as much as we could. So, nonetheless, let me get my charger. 1 second. You're also probably going to hear my co-host in the background, the one, the only Chunk. But I'm like, hey, it is what it is. Okay. So we all know in 1985, on that tragic day, the city of Philadelphia decided to basically drop a bomb, which was intended for one house, right? That was occupied by the MOVE group. And unfortunately, it destroyed that entire block, including another part of a different, the block on the next side of it. What is that? Is that Larchwood? It might be. But I'll just give you just a quick background on that situation because I'm always asked about it, from people. And then they're surprised when I say I literally only lived about maybe 4 or 5 blocks from there, grew up there, still there. Actually was just there today too. But I always tell people I was a child, but I clearly remember that day. I didn't hear any of the gun battle that went on. I didn't hear any of that part. But I remember clearly hearing an explosion. A lot of people said that it wasn't an explosion, but I heard an explosion. I remember. And I also remember the sky filling up like it was red, straight up red. So I was going to do, I'm doing this video because I don't think that a lot of America, when they talk about what happened in this particular situation, I don't think they ever really um, speak to the neighbors or talk to the people in the neighborhood and how they felt about it. I know in different interviews and documentaries, um, a lot of people will have you believe that, it was the police and the white people and stuff like that, and the government officials, federal officials, who was against the group because of their color. However, they never really talk about how the actual neighbors felt. This is a predominantly, yes, this is a predominantly black neighborhood. Back then, it was middle class neighborhood. It's still not that bad. I mean, it looks completely different now, but it's still for the most part, a black and working class, neighborhood. So I think I haven't seen anything on it where, people actually talk to the neighbors. But I can tell you from even my own grandparents' perspective, they did not like the MOVE organization whatsoever. They didn't like them. And I'll get into that shortly after I give you just a quick summary of what MOVE is, what happened that day. And then I was lucky enough to be able to speak to one of the neighbors on the block. So we'll get into that. I actually don't think I'll be dropping a live link or anything today, depending on my schedule. Um, we'll see. Excuse me, Chunk. I'll start this off by saying after 35 years, the city of Philadelphia has officially apologized for the pre military operation it conducted in a black neighborhood that left 11 dead. On May 13th, 1985, Philadelphia police dropped a bomb on 6621 Osage Avenue, which left 11 people dead, including 5 children, and it burned down 61 homes. 61 homes, y'all. Yes. At this particular time, they had made this address, 6621 Osage, their headquarters, because originally they were down the bottom, which is on like the bottom part of West Philly. It was on Powelton, and I believe the mayor at that time, he actually had it bulldozed, like for L&I situations, and we'll get into that as well. Also in 1988, a grand jury cleared the then Mayor Wilson Goode and other top city officials of criminal liability for the death and destruction from the incident. And actually, this month, Philadelphia City Council voted to formally apologize for the decision to approve a bombing. For the life of me, you guys, I will never understand. Yeah, I will never understand who actually thought it was a good idea to drop a bomb on a row home. To me, that is freaking ridiculous. But as you'll learn in the interview with the lady, with Miss L that I did, I also never knew that, and this is coming from her. She said that um, the group members of Move had actually, because they had a bunker. I remember hearing about this bunker thing on top of the house, you know, on top of everything else. They had live farm animals. The kids would run around naked. I've heard all this before, and they would be on the bullhorn 24/7. Do you know how, like, I don't know if you have them in your city, but in our city you'll get like the Hebrew Israelites and they'll get on the bullhorn and they're screaming all day long and taunting people as they go by. I can clearly remember one time telling me to take the white European hair out my head, and I'm looking at him crazy because I'm like, dude, this is my hair. But I'll digress. I was like, but this is what they were doing in a row home with live animals. hmm They built a fortress-like bunker on the roof. They would, and this is from my own grandparents, and then Miss Lisa, she'll talk about it too as well. Um, the children run around naked. They would hurl themselves up like a pulley kind of thing, and pull it up and go in and then go out. And I didn't know this either, but the person who I was fortunate enough to meet in an interview, she said they used to line the steps up with meat, like just sit raw meat out on the steps. What the hell was that about? I don't know. But the whole point of this is for you guys to get a different perspective and how the neighbors felt. Okay. And firsthand account with the interviewer that I was able to speak to, and also from what I can remember as a child growing up so close to it, and how my grandparents and other neighbors felt about it. It was a nuisance. It was a big nuisance. Could you imagine going to work and then coming home to rest and you got them out there with a bullhorn? Really? Okay. So, on May 13th, police dropped an explosive device on the roof of 6621 Osage Avenue in West Philly after a day-long confrontation with the Black radical group Move. As officers tried to evict them from their compound, the police fired 10,000 rounds of ammunition into the building before dropping the bomb from a helicopter onto the building's roof, igniting the destructive inferno. You guys, to this day, I still remember it being a huge explosion. You'll see later in the quick interview, she said it was actually 2 explosions. I remember hearing one. You got Gregore Sambor, the police commissioner who directed the bombing. Reassigned in November of that year, a grand jury in 1988 cleared then Mayor Wilson Goode and other top officials of criminal liability for the death and destruction that resulted in that operation. I clearly remember Wilson Goode because he's a preacher now, I think. Um, yeah, he is a preacher. He actually was a pastor at a funeral I went to. Um, he actually also wrote in the Guardian that that event will remain in his conscience for the rest of his life, as it should, because 11 people died, 5 of those was children, and to this day, I do not understand who would greenlight a bomb being dropped on a row home. To me, that was ridiculous. Quick background on the actual Move group. Since 1981, the building had been the headquarters. The Move group occupied that location since 1981. It was, at the time, the headquarters of Move, a radical, they said radical West Philadelphia group whose ideology combined black revolutionary ideals with environment and animal rights. Sounds legit to me, right? It sounds cool to me. And then this is where issues start popping up. And at this point, we still got the whole Mumia Abdul situation. I won't put that in this video because we're not focused on him. We're focused more so on the neighbors and how they felt about the actual group. Okay. That also played a part in the, hostility between the Move organization and the Philadelphia police, because that all came into play as well. But on that fateful day, there was 10,000 rounds of ammunition in under 90 minutes, literally. It was like an all-out gun battle. Again, I told you guys, I don't remember hearing gunshots. I just remember hearing an explosion. Um, it happened on May 13th. The Philadelphia Special Investigation Commission found that they were embattled in a 90-minute standoff. Lots of shots exchanged. And apparently, I had no clue about this either until I spoke with the lady. They were going through the basements, through the walls simultaneously. The Move organization, some of their members were going through the walls in the basements. And then you had the police and the military, like, they're going through the walls. So they were messing up houses anyway, and then some idiot, well, we know who that idiot is, decided to drop a hole. They call it like a satchel bomb laced with Tovex. It's a C4 explosive, military grade demolition device, which is typically used in combat. Um, they used it on the Move compound. And when they keep saying the Move compound, I'm looking sideways like, the fuck? It's a row home. It was a row home. So it's like, that shit was crazy. Now, granted, at the same time, the neighbors have been complaining and complaining and complaining, to the city for help. They was complaining because, again, they had live animals. Um, they did all kinds of things that was disruptive. The children running around naked. And from what I can recall, the city had offered this organization several different options to get them out of the house and get them out of a residential area, which they declined, right? I mean, this whole entire ordeal, getting this one group out of a row home, basically destroyed all the buildings, all the houses around the quote unquote compound. It was a row home. Sheesh. There was 2 survivors, 13-year-old Birdie Africa and 30-year-old Ramona Africa. I used to see Ramona a lot on the train, a whole lot, over the years. Always. I would see her like every day. She was immediately arrested on rioting and conspiracy charges. After that, I know that she did about maybe 7 years there. And then I know Birdie died in 2013. His death was pretty suspicious in a bathtub, nonetheless. That's just a quick background of Move the organization itself. It was founded in 1972 by Vincent Leifert, and he was a Korean War veteran. He also took on the name John Africa to demonstrate his reverence for the continent. Also, it goes on to talk about how the group had a mixed relationship with neighbors in local community, but frequently had run-ins with the law enforcement. I just said that to y'all because the neighbors didn't like it. They didn't. Um, it was a nuisance, a complete nuisance. And in 1978, moved engaged in a 15-month standoff with then Mayor Frank Rizzo, who ordered them to vacate their original home for violating city ordinance rules, which I think that's what they were trying to do when they moved to Osage. They were trying to get them out of there for violating city ordinance rules as well. And we all know how Rizzo felt about I guess we all don't, but I'm telling you now, he was considered to be really racist here. So to it was nothing for them to go ahead and bulldoze that location over, right? Yeah. The Rizzo at the time, he had a notoriously poor relationship with the black community. Terribly. They removed his statue too, by the way. Oh, those people were upset about that. But toodles to that statue. But that's around the time when this particular organization began to arm themselves, as they should. That is their rights as citizens. Then when we get into the whole Mumia Abdul Jabbar thing, after the death of Officer James Ramp, who was fatally shot during a confrontation in the Powellton Village, Philadelphia on August 8th, 1978. This is when things got really, really bad for the organization. 9 members of MOVE received life sentences for the incident, which also injured 13 other people, and they became the MOVE 9. You can go ahead and Google that if you want to learn more about that. Again, today I just wanted to focus more so on how the neighbors was dealing with the situation. Also, in this whole particular thing, if you Google Dilbert Africa, you'll be able to see a good example of of police brutality even back then. Way back then, it was actually caught on camera. For him, he actually was released this past January, on January 18th. He spent 32 years behind bars. He recently just passed away. Well, not recently. In June, he passed away. So they had like a horrible back and forth, right? Then that's when they moved over to Osage Avenue, and then they were based there until all of this shit kicked off, right? But in the meantime, between time, they were really disliked from the community. They were on the city's back to have something done about it. The city felt pressure to have something done about it because the relationship was so bad that the police would just monitor them from the corner of the block. Like, they just didn't want any smoke, even when it came. Well, Miss Ella talked about it in the interview. Even when it came to needing to cut the electricity off, because obviously they ain't gonna pay no bills. Stop. You know what I mean? Back then, you couldn't push a button; you had to go in, and they wouldn't even go in to do that. Okay, that's how bad the situation had become. It was really, it wasn't a good look. Moving forward, again, like I told you guys, Ramona did 7 years. John Africa, he actually died in the bombing. Ramona Africa, she became the spokesperson, and continues to advocate for the still in prison Move 9. I have not seen Miss Africa in a lot of years. Actually, to be quite honest, I don't even know if she still is alive. If she is not, my condolences to her family and loved ones. But she did receive I think she got like 1.5 million in damages for the bombing, and that's not the discount the neighbors and stuff who received monetary damages. So that still wasn't enough though, because what happened right after that was basically the city of Philadelphia. Ooh. Hold on one second. Whoops. Okay, I'm back. Sorry. Being a mommy. Yes, sir. Yeah. You want to take a look at it? Go look at it. So what happened is the city of Philadelphia, they built these really shitty houses in the place of all the houses that were burnt down, and people became very, very sick. Very, very, very sick. It had asbestos and things of that nature in there, and it never really made a comeback kind of thing. So for a very long time, you still had the 1 second, you guys, be right back. So for like a very long time, the block was just like kind of like a ghost town. Apparently, it was causing people to get sick and cancer. It was full of asbestos, things of that nature. So a lot of neighbors took the buyouts, and some was resistant and stayed. Um, like the last time I had went through the block, from besides the video that I'm going to play, I only seen like 2 families on there, but Miss Lisa, she corrected me and said it was like 8 of them still on there, but it would be like a ghost town, that block, and then the block next to it, because they never really talk about the block next to it. Their houses got blown up as well. But today they still have members of Move, still descendants of that movement. They still live together in West Philly, and they still are out there and and participate in peaceful protests all over the United States, actually. So now we'll just hear from one of the neighbors who's actually on the block, who lives on the block and still does. She told me how, I don't even know if this part got captured on the video, but she did tell me how the city came back in, remodeled everything, took all the asbestos out, and basically redone the whole entire block, and made sure that it was healthy for people to again be located on there. Driving through there, the block is completely occupied, and it's a beautiful block. Even when they had the houses, when they rebuilt them, the houses were nice, smaller than the original ones, but nice. They just did it haphazardly, and it caused a lot of people to get sick. But driving through there that day is beautiful. It's beautiful, and it's occupied, so that's a good thing. So we'll go ahead and jump into the video that I was so blessed to get out of nowhere, to be honest. I was only doing a ride through for the video, but I'm glad she spent some time with me. She was a very nice lady. Also, you guys know how I like to plug in black business people and folks getting their hustle on or whatever. There's a guy um at 63rd in Walnut. What? I can't think of his name. Let me get his name. His name is Abdul. He's right there on the corner with a big ass truck. He's selling a lot of different household items and stuff. Lysol, cleaning supplies, the whole nine. So make sure y'all hit him up and show some support. I definitely did. I got me a couple cleaning supplies and things of that nature that sometimes is kind of hard to come across now because of the pandemic and everything. But I'll go ahead and we'll get this part of the video started. Okay. I really do remember those children being naked, like being naked. I remember the neighbors being like, what? Being over it, like really over it. So I'm thinking like the neighbors were putting their foot in the city officials' necks, and they was getting tired of it too. On top of that, with the whole killing of the officer, and they had bad blood between the police themselves. I mean, I don't know. It just didn't seem like the smartest thing to do at all. So I'm like, what? This is crazy. So my co-host is having a fit, so we're going to go ahead and jump into the other part of the video. Really quick question, because I'm doing a documentary on the whole Move situation. I was like 6 or 7 when this happened. The next block over, 2 blocks over, actually. And I wanted to know, like, how long has people been back on the block? Because last time I was around here, it was like almost empty.
Well, the empty houses, they started going last year.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody started moving in. What about the room? Why is that? The summer.
Okay.
Yeah, summer of this year.
So it's all safe health wise and everything now for you guys? Because I remember it had something about asbestos and all that other stuff back in the day.
Well, I don't have the best asbestos in this house, but this is one of the original houses. This wasn't rehab like the
Okay.
ones that were abandoned.
Okay.
So,
I'm really shocked because last time I came through here, it was like only 2 families on the block.
Well, it was about 8 of us.
Okay.
8 occupied houses.
Okay.
Yeah, and so now all the houses are occupied.
Okay.
And even on Pine Street, that side that got rehab, all those are occupied.
Were you here when it actually happened?
My family was here. The corner house was actually ours.
Okay.
And I had just went into the military.
Mm-hmm.
So I was only in there for about a month.
Yeah.
And then, this started going on. But it started before I even left.
Right.
With the bullhorns and them boards.
That's what I was saying. This was
on top of the house.
my whole part of doing like this part of the documentary is because I don't think a lot of people in this nation really knows how the neighbors actually felt. And I remember my grandparents really having an issue with the whole movement because of the bullhorns, because of the animals, and all of that stuff.
When Louise Africa, who was the owner of the house, she worked for Bell Telephone, and Frankie Africa, he was like my age,
Mm-hmm.
and John Africa is Louise Africa's brother,
Mm-hmm.
and he's the one with Ramona Africa.
Yeah.
And they started that. They did down on Cotton Avenue.
Right, I remember.
And then that's when who was the mayor then? Mayor
Wilson Goode.
No.
Was it Rizzo?
Down Fountain Avenue. Rizzo.
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 Mm-hmm.
And he's the one that came in with the bulldozer and knocked down the houses down at 38th and Powell.
Right.
And then they came up here.
Mm-hmm.
And then they moved in here. And it really wasn't a problem with them. The thing is, like, they had those little birdie and them, the little children.
Yeah.
And they would run down the driveway, come up, and then sometimes had no clothes.
Right.
On.
Yeah, I remember hearing they were naked.
My
Yeah.
little sister Nicole. How old are you?
I'm 40.
Okay. Well, you might know who, Jarrell.
Maybe if I saw them. Yeah.
And they would give them popsicles and all that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and candy, and then they would come down to Delta and say, "Don't give them that. They can have that." And then they would walk down the parkway with a wagon with hay and all this stuff on top of it, and go down the hill.
Right.
And I don't know what they were doing, and they would stand in a circle and dump it in the bushes down there and be chanting, and I don't know if they were getting rid of feces or what they were doing. But the kids would come down eating raw potatoes, white potatoes, and carrots, and stuff like that. And sometimes be barefoot. And Miss Betty Matt, that lived right over there, she worked for cleaners.
Mm-hmm.
So clothes that were left over in the cleaners, she started trying to give them the clothes so they could put clothes on, coats on in the wintertime. Sometimes they would take it, sometimes they would.
Mm-hmm.
Then it got to a point where nobody wanted to walk in front of their house or park in front of their house.
Mm-hmm.
They started in the back, in the driveway, they built a big old wooden fence that went from their house up against the wall
Mm-hmm.
in the driveway. And they started bringing stray dogs in. And
Yeah,
stuff,
I
and
heard about
cats.
the animals. Yeah.
And then the kids on the block started killing people's dogs, and here's a dog for you. But then they got to the point, you remember we used to have the steps.
Yeah.
The
Mhm.
porches that was high, and they started putting raw meat
Oh my God.
all around the ledges and on the ledges of where the window sills was.
Uh-huh.
There was raw meat, and flies was flying all over the
Oh
place.
my God.
And so nobody wanted to walk by the house and stuff. I don't know what the purpose of the meat was. I don't
I guess
even
it's
know.
as good as mine. I don't
But
know.
so then they started selling watermelons, and they had a cart that they put that they would pull, like in China, how they
Yeah.
They had a cart they would pull, and they parked it in front of their house.
Uh-huh.
Nobody parked there.
Right.
every day they would get up and come out and go around the neighborhood selling their watermelon. People on the block bought watermelon.
Yeah.
But the one day when the neighbor next door to them, he was originally from down the bottom,
Mhm.
and his wife she was a nurse. I don't know where she was from, but he came home at lunchtime, and he pulled into that spot
Mhm.
that they
Okay,
thought
so
was
yeah,
theirs.
yes, and this is a
And so
problem now.
yeah, so they came and banging on his door and told him he got to move because they came back with their cart and they wanted to park it. And he's like, I'm not going nowhere. And so they got into it. And I mean, I don't want to tell you wrong, but they got into it. And then the women jumped over their banister and started hitting him.
What?
Yeah, yeah. And then Ramona and Teresa and I forget the other girl's name, but they were all beating all on him. And he, I guess I don't know what happened, but the next morning he had his people from down the bottom standing out front of their house with their guns like this.
Against their own people.
Come out,
Mm.
come on out, come on out.
Wow.
And whatever. But even prior to that, that's when they were on the bullhorn.
I remember my grandparents telling me about the bullhorn all day, all night.
All day long, all
Mhm.
night long, and talking about the mayor and talking about the. Even my mother, she walked into the big guy and they on the bullhorn. There she goes. There she goes.
I mean, the
On her way to the
laugh.
liquor store. Talk about anybody who walks by.
Like them Hebrew Israelites downtown yelling at everybody. Yup.
So,
Oh man, that's crazy.
So somebody, and then on top of that, when somebody, because they wasn't paying no electric bill, gas bill,
Of course not. Why would?
right. And when the budget people came and try to shut their stuff off, they was like, you get out of here. This is new people.
Right.
So they just stay back. So the neighbor across the street here, they came to shut his stuff off. And he said, I'll be damned if you gonna shut my shit. You won't shut theirs off? And you ain't shutting mine off. Right? So
Oh goodness.
like that. And it just started, that's when it started getting ugly. But the day that the guys came from down the bottom with the guns pointed at the house, telling them to come on out, because they really beat. You got to lit her up. You
Yeah.
had black eyes and all that, face all swollen. Somebody called the police. I don't know if it was them. Somebody called the police.
Mhm.
And then the guys from the bottom came down the street and they left. So then when the police came, the movie people came out the house and said, there they go down there, there they go down there, there they go down there, blah, blah, blah. So, the police slowly go down there. Guys is gone. So then the movie people down at the corner. Now the neighbors is coming out the house. And then they start having, how come you don't dress your kids? How come they eating raw pig? Why y'all got that raw meat? Why
Yeah.
y'all got the driveway blocked up? Why this? Why that? Why? Then they start talking about why you got that white people perm in your hair? Why you got that white people perfume on? Why you got the white people this, white people that?
It's a whole mess. My thing was, okay, like I was telling a couple of my friends, I was a child. And they say that it wasn't a bomb, but I clearly remember hearing an explosion. I don't know if that was the after effect or what it was.
It was a my type, because what it was is that when the police came, because like I said, they couldn't get to the back of the house,
Mm-hmm.
and because of the fence
Right.
they had up, and they internal affairs would sit out here all day, all night on Pine Street on the corner,
Mm-hmm.
Addison, Northwood, and the police weren't allowed to come down the block because they didn't want to antagonize.
Right.
And so the day that they decided they were going to do something, and I don't know, the helicopter was circling around. Like I said, I wasn't here that day.
Yeah.
But I was watching it on TV, but what my family was telling me. they tried to get because the new people was up top on the roof.
Mhm.
Came out of the boat.
Mhm.
You know, these houses have skylights in the
Yeah.
bathroom. So I guess that's how they was getting up to the bunker
Mhm.
on top of the roof. And they was out there with Uzis, shotguns like this, you know, standing on top of the roof. They got pictures of that.
Yeah, I seen those ones.
So they wanted to get through that bunker because that's how they couldn't get because they had boarded up
Right.
the front of the house, the windows, and
And
all
like
that
barricaded
stuff.
themselves in.
Barricaded
Yeah.
themselves in there. So the state police helicopter was circling around, and all of a sudden he just dropped whatever. Some people said it was a Mai Tai bomb. People say it was a, I don't know.
That's what I be. Well, that's what the fussing was because I said I clearly remember hearing an explosion.
But what they're saying is the reason that it really was a big explosion and fire is that they're claiming that new people had poured gasoline on the rooftops up there.
Oh,
So people
I
heard
never
that.
heard that before.
Yeah, they had poured it. So that's why it's when they dropped that bomb. That's
Oh,
why it spread so fast.
okay.
Yeah.
I never heard that.
Um, when they did that, the new people tried to come out the basement,
Mhm.
but the police was in the alleyway on the Pine Street side, and they started shooting at them, and they ran back in the house. That's how they got caught in the fire.
Right.
And
So now we're here.
yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, so then what they were doing, neighbors didn't know because we had to all
Yeah.
vacate the house,
Mhm.
and the police was coming on this side through going through the walls in the basement, trying to get to their house.
I didn't know
At the
that.
same time, they were coming through the walls because they heard the boom, boom, boom,
Right,
boom,
right.
the noise, and they was coming through the walls. And then when they both passed in the middle, they saw each other, you know, because one didn't know the other what the other
Right.
was doing. That's when and they retreated, police retreated, and then blockers.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. You
Okay.
have a good holiday.
You too.
It was. I finally got to talk to somebody who was here when on the block. Thank you. Thank you so much. You have a blessed day. My name is Tiffany. Yes. Nice to meet you, Miss Lisa. You have a good one. That's my little daughter.
Okay.
Thank you.
Did you record that?
Huh?
All of it?
So, in conclusion, on that day, it wasn't just 11 people who passed away. I told you with 5 children being in the fire as well. It completely devastated a whole entire neighborhood. Um, the amount of victims is way more than the 11, no, way more than the 11 people that passed away. That it changed the neighborhood forever. And then you have the neighbors who still moved back, who got sick. Some passed away because of asbestos and things of that nature. I don't know. I hope that the takeaway is if you are starting or planning of movement of this nature, I think that it should also be taken into consideration about the people around you. I mean, from what I can remember, this organization was offered several different alternatives than to occupy a residential neighborhood in this fashion. They declined, allegedly. So I think the big takeaway here is hopefully that the city has learned something from this. Hopefully, the country has learned something for this, and going forward, make better decisions when it comes to things like this, because it could have been avoided. Seriously, you got 61 houses that blew up, so that was crazy. And I think that the city, and it's like a big huge black stain too on the city of Philadelphia, and on the mayor at the time. He was like the first black mayor, Wilson Goode. um that's probably, like he said to the Guardian, he that's going to be forever on his conscience, because so many people was affected. And to know that now, what are we talking, 30 plus odd years later, and people are still suffering from that tragic day. So that's where we are. I hope you all have beautiful day. It's a beautiful Saturday. I hope this was informative for you, just to get a different perspective from a neighbor's point of view, from a person who lived in the neighborhood. So I hope it was informative, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Yeah, am I missing anything? No, okay. Like and subscribe. Toodles. Say toodles. Toodles. Peace, y'all. Peace and blessings. Hey, y'all. Hey. Hey, Dots. Hello, Jayla, Hudson, Choctaw, Betty, EXO. I think I even saw Ron in here. Coffee Cakes, Ancient. Shout out to you all. I pre-recorded that for you guys. I don't, unfortunately, have time to drop the link. Plus, my co-host, he needs to be put to sleep. So I just hope you enjoyed this bit of information. It was a real quick, impromptu interview. That lady was so nice. She was really nice to talk to me. We talked for a while, actually a little bit longer than that. But the audio in some parts of it was even more choppier, because it was a whole different conversation going on at the same time. But thank you all for joining me this afternoon. Feel free to like and subscribe. You can share if you want. Y'all have a blessed day. All right? Toodles.